live, unfiltered, unplugged, all that stuff. You know what we're doing? We're gonna make more sourdough. We're gonna make more gluten-free sourdough. Now, I do have a confession to make. My starter has been sitting for a few days. So there is that. Just a couple of days. I meant to do it yesterday and I didn't get to it. So we are gonna start with that. I'm gonna do an unboxing as well. We have to do the unboxing first because I need more flour. Babe, can you grab my Dutch whisk for me? That'd be super helpful. So here we go. First thing, yes, thank you. I have Mr. He's making their chicken and potatoes. He's trying to hide from being live here. But first, let's put in our apron. First, let's put on the apron and get to make sure I don't get too much on my clothing. We're gonna do our unboxing first because I'm running out of flour. I love to bake, so this is pretty fun to go through and do this. And you just end up using a lot of flour, and gluten-free flour is not easy to come by. It makes it really tough. Sometimes they don't keep it stocked in the stores very well, just because you never know who's going gluten-free. I did this too. When I first went gluten-free and I found something I liked, I would buy it out in the store, meaning I would buy every bag that they had. The other fun thing, this is a pro tip for those of you that find something that you love at the grocery store and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I want more of this or whatever, and maybe you want to order it online, but you're like, I don't want a box of 12. You can request your grocery store carry your favorite items and products. So I used to, if I found a gluten-free item that I loved and I was like, I don't want to order 12 of it, 15 of it, or whatever to have in my house. I don't want to store that, but I want my grocery store to start carrying this so that if I run out, I know that they have it. So I would request the grocery store to carry my favorite breads, pastas, cake mix, all that stuff that were all gluten-free. Namaste is one of my favorite brands of cake mix. Their chocolate, oh, that's Gary. Chocolate cake is amazing, And I'm drinking seltzer water, tangerine with ginger extract. It's good, it's good. So I have a new bag. This is my old bag. There's only a little bit left in this. So I've got a new bag of the gluten-free flour. I have also tried to get King Arthur to send me like a 50-pound bag, and they don't do that. I am not a food distributor. I need it though, King Arthur. They're not listening. But I only have a little bit of this 1-to-1 left, and I do use some of the 1-to-1. So what did I do? I ordered it. Because, like I said, sometimes it's hard to find the gluten-free things in the store. So here we go, unboxing. I don't actually know what's all in this box from Amazon. So I ordered it from Amazon. Where I live, I can get stuff the next day, which is so convenient. I live in the Twin Cities, so it makes it really nice and easy, yes, right? To get all of the things, yes, okay. Yay! Here we go with the unboxing. Right on top, the 1-to-1 flour. And then I have a couple more flour mixes here, right? These are the same bread flour. Now, if you're wondering what is the difference between the 1-to-1 and the bread flour, they're all gluten-free. This is an equivalent that they make. So normal baking stuff that you would do, that you would normally use wheat flour for, this is a 1-to-1, but it's a blend of rice flour, brown rice flour, sorghum, tapioca starch, potato starch, and it says cellulose and mineral blend, and xanthan gum. So it is a blend of things. Now there are some people who are gluten-free who do have a hard time digesting, processing some of the other things in there, like xanthan gum or cellulose or something like that. Or they're like, oh, I'm gluten-free, but I don't do very well with rice. That can make something like this really difficult. Now this is a gluten-free bread flour. This is a bread flour that they remove the gluten from. It's the same thing. There's I can't remember what brand it is, of beer, where they remove no, not Redbridge, Omission. Omission is a brand I don't really drink beer, but I do know that there's a brand out there where they make the beer and they remove the gluten from it. So they do test it, they make sure, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of people who are gluten sensitive. And this is like a per person thing. I can do this bread. I am very sensitive and I do well with this, but not everybody does. So I just want to put that out there as a disclaimer. But this is a gluten-free wheat starch. So they do remove the gluten. It does go through a process. They also put cornstarch and sorghum flour and stuff in here and xanthan gum in here, because xanthan gum is the binder that they use in all the gluten-free flours. Just because wheat, and in gluten that's found in wheat, barley, and rye, is a binding protein. So that's what holds it together and that's what makes it sticky. And you're gonna see when I mix up my sourdough, even though I have my starter and everything, that's what helps it rise, because this is just the flour and water. That's it. That's it. That's why I love it so much. But it's not stretchy, right? That's because there's the gluten is what makes everything stretchy. So how they handle it is they add the xanthan gum and everything. So, okay. So other things in my unboxing, I have. Is it just one can? That's all I ordered? I thought I ordered more than that. I just got 1 can of organic pumpkin. I make the dogs treats with this. I make their treats. I could do that next too. They could probably use more treats, but I ran out of pumpkin. It's pumpkin, peanut butter, and then I use some almond flour, and then this is the other flour. This is like a whole box of flours that I use for different things. This is the unboxing part. So if you guys also have questions, I talk a lot about women's health and hormones, but here for these lives, I really am talking about kind of everything and anything and just giving you a behind the scenes look at a lot of stuff. So being gluten-free, I use a lot of different flours for different things. Now for dogs, I'm not a dog expert by any means, but we do have our dogs on a raw food diet. And we are very careful because our dog Gary, we have 2 Springer Spaniels, and that has Down syndrome. I find it offensive that you are pretending to have it well, that's really unkind. So we have 2 Springer Spaniels, and they are hunting dogs. My husband hunts and fishes and everything. And what we do with them is really make sure that they are not getting any wheat or grains or things like that, because it's hard on their systems. And our littler dog, Gary, has Addison's disease. So Addison's is where your adrenals don't do cortisol. And there we go. There we go. Okay. So Addison's is where, now humans can get Addison's disease too. Humans can have Addison's, but also dogs can have Addison's, right? Animals can have Addison's. He was diagnosed, I think, 1.5 years ago. So Gary, he's the smaller Springer Spaniel that we have. He has more of a brown face. Murray is the other one. He has more of a white face, but they're both brown and white dogs, right? They look very similar. Anyway, so when I make their treats, I make them with canned pumpkin and peanut butter, and then a little bit of spirulina for some greens for them. And then I use cassava flour and some almond flour. So this is restocking my cassava flour. Cassava is a root vegetable that also a lot of people who are gluten-free utilize. So I will use this in other baking and other recipes and things like that too. It can be used, in place of the 1-to-1 as well. It can be used for that. It's a very thin, light flour, right? It's a very thin, light flour. And, but it makes certain baking dishes really nice. If you're making like a cake and you want it light and fluffy, I will add some of this in there because it's such a light flour to use. But the dogs really, really, really love the treats I make them. Again, pumpkin and cassava, almond flour, and some peanut butter. If I have time, I might make another batch today. Otherwise, my next live, maybe I'll do that. Because it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do. I used to get intimidated by doing a lot of this stuff by hand and saying, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, right? I'm a busy working mom of 3 kids. How am I going to keep up with all the things? And, you know, making treats is better for the dogs than buying them from the store because they're fresher, they're all natural, there's no preservatives. I have to keep them in the fridge, otherwise they go bad on the counter, but it's better for them. I'm so intimidated to try and keep doing this, right? All the time. Oh, I can't keep up. But I found these simple, easy recipes just to keep going with it, and it makes it a lot better. So, okay. So here we go. Next is, I got a big bag of peanuts. I like to make roasted peanuts for everybody in the household. And then, oh, these are floss picks. Take care of your teeth. This is going to be my soapbox overall for talking about health, because I do talk about health and hormones and everything else quite a bit. Your dental health is closely tied to your overall health. So if you are not taking care of your teeth and yet you are not sleeping well, have an upset stomach, all this other stuff, take care of your teeth. Again, I'm not a dentist, but there are so many studies where your overall health is tied to your dental health. So go to the dentist, get your teeth cleaned, make sure you're taking care of your oral hygiene and everything else. Your gut, your digestive system starts in your mouth. And so if you have cavities, if you have gum disease, all of that stuff, brush, floss, right? Floss. And I use these flossers. I have them all over the house just to make sure if anybody needs a flosser that they can floss easily. I keep them in my car too. It makes it really easy then to make sure you're flossing regularly. Take care of your teeth. In the program that I have, so I work with women, you know, talking about health and hormones and all the things. And I do talk about dental hygiene and dental health. And just in reference to, if your gums are not healthy, if you have, you know, swollen gums, irritated gums, bleeding gums, all that stuff, that's also going to create more pain and everything else for your system. And it can, oh, this broke open. And it can raise your cortisol levels. And that cortisol is going to have a negative impact on the rest of your system, right? Yeah. Okay. Other gluten-free flours. I should have said unboxing gluten-free flours should have been the title. This broke in the box. I don't know if you can see, but there is like a layer of flour all over the inside of this box. So this one is Pamela's, and if you're wondering why are they different brands for things, I have these are my favorites for gluten-free stuff. It's really hard to find gluten-free things that I like, and once I have found things, then I just stick with it. Now there's other brands that are good, of course, but this is like my favorite. So Pamela's pancake and baking mix. Do I bake with this sometimes? I mean, sometimes, but this makes the best gluten-free pancakes. Oh my gosh. Now again, I am not sponsored by any of these companies. I have no connection to any of them. I'm just sharing after being gluten-free for 20 years, gluten-free for 20 years and trying all the things. These are some of my favorites. They make pancakes that are really similar to what I think are good restaurant pancakes, you know? That's Gary in the background there. So that's why I love this. Pamela's. They make good brownie mix too. They have a really good cake mix as well. So they make a lot of goods, like pretty much anything from Pamela's is going to be good. Good brand all around, but we get there, again, like I said, I have 3 kids. So we go through a lot of pancake mix. So I order it in a big box. Oh yeah. There is flour everywhere in here. One of these is broken. There's a leak somewhere. I'm gonna have to find that later. But so that's the unboxing of the Pamela's. Yes. But for today, let's start with the. This is messy. This is gonna be a messy live today. Unintentionally messy. Let's start with the sourdough. Let's make sourdough. This sourdough I'm actually making for my husband. We are gonna make jalapeno cheddar sourdough. I add in the jalapenos and cheddar later. So this is just the beginning process of it. So this is my starter. She's ready to go. I measure some things very specifically, others not as much. For this, she really needs to be fed. She is hungry. So I'm just gonna start by scooping all of this in here. there, and I just leave a little bit left in the jar. Right, again, there's no specific measurement for what needs to be done here. Just measure with your heart, as some people say. Okay, I have to separate my flours to make sure I'm doing this correctly. This is the gluten-free, this is the gluten-free. Okay, so first we're gonna feed the starter again. Even a little bit, right? Even those little scraps in there, she's gonna rebuild and repopulate. That's the really cool thing about sourdough. So we're gonna start with 1, 2, 3 tablespoons of water. Now this is filtered water. That's what works best also. Okay, good. For gluten-free. Now, if you're following other gluten-free recipes for sourdough, they usually do a 1-to-1 ratio to feed. I haven't had really good success with that, so this is just my fine-tuning the recipe. I do 3 tablespoons of water to 2 tablespoons of flour, and I do like to do a mix here of 1 tablespoon of the 1-to-1, and then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of the bread flour. Can you use just 1-to-1 flour? Yes. Can you use just bread flour? Yes. Right? But that's just, this is my special recipe that I have kind of fine-tuned over the last 6 months and found that this makes really good starter and really good bread. So there we go. I mean, I do have one of these fancier whisks, but you can get like other fancy kitchen products and things like that, but just a regular jar and a spoon. There you go. That's all you need. So the starter is fed. She is fed, and we're going to cover it and we're going to let it sit. And I won't touch it for a whole nother day. Some starters, again, I'll call it regular starters, wheat-based starters. You can feed a starter and then use it 5 or 6 hours later in a recipe. It doesn't rise as well. I haven't found it to rise very well for gluten-free flours. So, all right, so now we've got our starter in the bowl, and we're just going to add water. 2 cups of the filtered water. Let me move this back so you guys can see the counter. That wiggles a lot. Okay, so 2 cups of the thing. Now again, when I talked about dental health and flossing and everything else, and it's really good for your gut health is also really important for your overall hormones. Your digestive system is in charge of filtering everything out. So if you have had gut issues, digestive issues, and I'm going to be talking about this more over on my IG, and I'm going to be talking about a very special, a limited opportunity over there later today. So if you're not following me over there and you're interested in gut health stuff, make sure you go over there. Yeah, I'm gonna need another bag of flour here. But your gut health is really tied to your hormonal health and everything else, just like your dental health. So if you're not taking care of your gut on a regular basis or making sure that your digestive system is functioning really, really well, it's gonna be really difficult to keep up with your overall health long term. What does that mean? Why would that be? All of that stuff, right? Your digestive system is in charge of processing a majority of things. Like 80% of your hormones get filtered out through the liver-gut pathway. Liver-gut pathway. That's the fat-soluble pathway. A smaller percentage is done through the water-soluble pathway. Great, right? Well, that means that if you have regular bloating, heartburn, constipation, diarrhea, anything like that, it's going to be really tough on your system if you're not filtering regularly, meaning those hormones get reabsorbed. So for estrogen specifically, if you are a gal that's worried about your estrogen levels and you're thinking, gosh, why is this getting worse for me? Why do I have worse mood swings or other things, right? Symptoms around your cycle. And you're thinking, gosh, I'm trying to take these things for the symptom, but you have daily gut issues. You have to deal with the gut issue too, because the gut is in charge of filtering everything out. And if you go more than 24 hours without going to the bathroom and emptying out your gut, that estrogen actually gets reabsorbed back into your system, feeding into those hormone issues, right? So that's one of the big things about why I talk about hormone health, gut health, and why making sourdough, right? Like this is what I do I'm in my home. I'm doing this like live, unfiltered, unplugged. I have no script or agenda I'm following. I'm just talking about hormonal health and showing you this is what I do in my own life for everything and what I teach people. So my husband loves sourdough. I just started Akkermansia for gut health. Yes. Yes. Oh, that is really good. Yes, Akkermansia is bacteria. It's a good bacteria in the gut. So when we do GI mapping, we actually test for the amount of Akkermansia to see if you have enough naturally. And if you don't, adding in Akkermansia or adding in some type of probiotic can be really helpful. Akkermansia specifically helps with the mucus lining of your digestive system. Also, it's just a super fun word to say. It helps with your digestive system lining. So if you're worried about, good to bad bacterial balance, that dysbiosis that can happen, which also gets thrown more out of whack if you're under more stress. So keep that in mind, especially if you're like, I have hormone issues, I'm super bloated, and yeah, I've been stressed for a while. Why isn't this getting better? Gut health is a big, big factor in this. So that can help with all of that. That can really help with the good to bad bacterial balance. You want to have enough good bacteria. And then again, it can help with that gut lining. But again, we do GI mapping to make sure that we're making the right recommendation and not missing anything. It's so hard to make gluten-free sourdough. Yes. Yes. It really, really is. It really, really is. I can absolutely share. Yes. So there's actually a post that's going to be going out if you're on my email list and if you're following me on IG. I'm very, very active over on IG. And I've had so many requests, again, because I've been gluten-free for 20 years. 20 years, almost half my life. Yes. I know I'm older than that. So it's not quite, right? If I was 40, it'd be half my life, but I'm older than 40. So it's not half my life. It's just less than half my life. I'm so sorry. Did you have something to say, sweetheart? Did you want to come over here and say it?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. My husband's getting lippy over there, and he's hiding in the living room because he didn't want to be in my live. Yes, but so being gluten-free for this long, that was the thing I missed the most. Anytime somebody asked me, is it hard to be gluten-free and blah, 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 even years and years ago, right? A decade or two ago, I'd be like, no, it's not that hard. It's just different. But the thing I miss is sourdough. The thing I miss is sourdough. And now I have my own starter. So I did make my own. It is really, really difficult. It's really, really picky. It took a long time. Like it took 2 weeks. It took a solid 2 weeks. And then I went on Amazon and I bought a gluten-free starter because I was like, it feels like it shouldn't be this hard, right? So I bought a starter and did this gluten-free starter that I just got from Amazon. So if you email me and I'll send you the exact thing that I got. It's on there, right? I think it had bluish lettering or something. I used that. 4 days later, boom, right? So I actually mixed the two starters together. So that's what I use. She's a blend. She's a blend of something borrowed, something created. It is so good though. So a few things about my starter that I've noticed. It does take twice as long. So for other sourdough recipes, I found that they'll say, oh, feed it, and then 4 hours later or 6 hours later, you can make a bread. It doesn't go as well. It doesn't rise as well. I have to let it rise longer. So I'll feed my starter at night if I want to make another loaf in the morning or the next day. I won't try and do it in the same day. It just doesn't have the right punch to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Also, I can leave it on my counter. Now, again, I live in Minnesota. And in the kitchen, it's at 71 degrees in here right now. But as you can tell, I am wearing a toque in the hat, my hat in the house. Minnesota. It's not super warm, but it's warm enough. But it will rise slowly. If I want it to rise warmer, or if I want it to rise faster, I have to keep it warmer than this. And so I will my oven has a bread proofing setting where if I keep the inside of the oven at about 100 degrees, sometimes even just putting the light on in my oven, it keeps it warm. And I will put a dish of water, like even a coffee cup of water and this in the oven with the oven light on to have that moist heat in there so it doesn't get too dry. And it does rise faster and it gets super, super, super bubbly. So that's one of the tricks for my starter, because it is starters are tricky and starters are picky, especially when they're gluten-free. And again, when we talk about the gluten-free stuff, there's so many people who have gut issues that they just go gluten-free and their gut changes and they're like, wow, this is so different. And oh my gosh, this is so much better. And I feel so much better on a regular basis. And this is incredible and amazing. Yes. Right? So gluten-free sourdough. So that's the thing. So I've got my starter in here and then 2 cups of water. So I'm going to do this, mix it up right now. This is just my favorite way to do it. Again, there's other recipes out there, but this is what I found works best for me. Again, I use the King Arthur's. I am not sponsored by King Arthur. I just really like their stuff because it's worked well for me. So I'm transferring bags here because I just did my unboxing because I had to order more flour. So my husband can eat gluten. I cannot. I get very ill. I get sick, right? But my husband does gluten. But he often does some gluten-free stuff just because we're all gluten-free. So he's gluten-free by proxy, right? He's sneaking around in the background. So I will start with the 1-to-1. So it's going to be 3 and 3/4 cup. 3 and 3/4 cup of flour. So I do 1 cup of the 1-to-1. Do you have to? No, I just like the consistency of the dough and everything when I'm done with it. So 1, and that's the 1-to-1. 2. 2. I get this mixed a little bit, otherwise it gets gloppy and clumpy and everything else. Yeah, but if you're following my list, again, I'm going to be, we are coming out, I'm releasing my recipe and showing you exactly how I do this. Again, I am not officially a baker, but again, being gluten-free for 20 years, I grew up baking. I love, baking. I was the kid, right? I have, 3 other siblings, and growing up, I was the one that always, would bake the Christmas cookies and everything else and cakes for birthdays and all that stuff. I loved it. And then going gluten-free, especially 20 years ago, it was really rough. There were not good options out there. And to try and buy all these tiny bags of super expensive flour to make make a little cake that turned out hard as a rock, it was so disappointing. Okay, so that was 3 cups. And then this is going to be the 3/4 cup. Right here. Oh, see, messy. This is why I wear an apron. There we go. And this is not a fancy apron, in case you're wondering. This is not something you can get at a store. This is an original made by my daughter. She sewed the whole thing. It's actually a plastic tablecloth. I love it. And it's got these 2 pockets. It's got 2 pockets. She made this. She got a tablecloth and she sewed the whole thing herself. Isn't that cute? I love it. I think it was for Christmas. Those are my dogs walking around in the background. Gary and Murray. They're good boys. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll make them treats next time. I'll show you how I make their treats. Because those are gluten-free too. And I actually have a whole gluten-free house. I don't allow gluten in my house because I get so ill from it. So just a really slow mixing process. And again, you'll see with gluten-free flours, it doesn't bind nicely. And again, because gluten is a binding protein, which makes things stretchy. Like think of somebody making pizza dough, flipping pizza dough, all that stuff. Can't really do that with gluten-free. It does not work. Because we are missing that binding protein. And as hard as xanthan gum tries, it just doesn't do the trick the same, right? So it's gonna look sticky and gloppy and weird and everything. Now again, I normally would proof this in the oven, but right now my husband is making dinner. So I'm gonna have to proof this on the counter next to the oven and everything else. One of the other benefits, and I'm so glad that other comment she had mentioned Akkermansia. One of the other benefits of sourdough is that it actually can be really beneficial for your gut health. There's a lot of people that will have digestive issues, things like that. gut health, bloating, and they'll be like, oh, I eat bread or something starchy and my digestive system doesn't work well, my gut hurts after I eat bread, what should I do? And sometimes just switching to a sourdough is so helpful, again, and making it is really wonderful because it's literally flour and water. That is it. There's no other ingredients, preservatives, or anything. It's flour and water, and then after the next step, we will, you know, add in some salt. A little bit of salt and a little bit of water, and then do the stretch and folds and everything, and that's it. Yeah, it does mix different too, just so you know. It just have to really incorporate all of this. Yeah, but eating sourdough bread actually is really good for your digestive system for a lot of people. So if you've been struggling, something to try, and just to see. There's a lot of ways that foods are made nowadays that are just harder to process for our systems, right? I have what I would call a sensitive system. I don't do well if I have to eat out at a restaurant all the time. Like if I'm traveling and, oh, we can't make food in your hotel room, got to eat out. Even if it's a good restaurant, my digestive system has a hard time. So that's one of the benefits of having foods like this, is that you always know, making it fresh, making it yourself. You know what's in there. You know that it can be good for the good bacteria in here are wonderful. All that stuff. Somebody's, have you any younger sister? I would like to marry her. You know what's hilarious? I do have a younger sister. She doesn't make sourdough, I don't think. No, I'm just kidding. Healthy food, good, natural. Yes. So there's that. Yeah, so anyway, making sourdough, really good for gut health, really easy on digestion. I will say this, like since I started making my own sourdough and I don't buy gluten-free bread from the store, one of the other motivators behind this, so this bag of gluten-free flour is like 10 bucks, $9 or $10, right? The one-to-one, I think is $8 or $9 right now, depending on where you're getting it, the grocery store versus sometimes Target has it versus ordering it on Amazon or whatever, right? For the bag. Now I can make 2 loaves, more than 2 loaves from this. So we'll say 2.5 loaves of bread from this. A loaf of gluten-free bread at the grocery store, $8.50. For a tiny loaf. And when you make your own sourdough, it's like this huge loaf of bread, right? So it is so fantastic, right? It's so fantastic to be able to make the food. And again, for gluten-free stuff, it's more expensive, which is just the way it goes sometimes, right? I'm not here to complain about that, but if I can find a way to, hey, I got a starter, and I can get a bag of flour, you know, let's say this is 10 bucks and this one's 9 bucks, and I can make at least 2.5 loaves with that. That's a steal of a deal, right? And they're bigger loaves. So one of the loaves of sourdough is worth 2 size-wise, because the loaves of bread for gluten, if you've bought gluten-free bread at the grocery store, they're like this big. They're tiny. Gluten-free sourdough loaves are like this big, so it's double. So I'm literally getting double, right? What did I calculate? When I made gluten-free bagels, same recipe, made gluten-free bagels, I calculated that the gluten-free bagels that the grocery store makes, they're like $2 per bagel, because a bag of 4 bagels is $8. Again, I live in Minnesota, I live in the Twin Cities, you know, all that stuff, and I can make the bagels for about 50 cents a piece. Right? I'm going to do that. And again, it's really good for your gut health. So why is this so important for women's health especially? That's what I talk about the most, women's health, women's hormones, all those things. Talking about gut health is really important and relevant to women's hormone health. Because if your digestive system is not working well, you're not going to have good balanced hormones and be able to maintain any of that. So there is that. Okay, so here is my sourdough. There. So again, this isn't going to look like I don't want to say regular sourdough, but wheat sourdough. Sourdough made with wheat flour. This is the gluten-free. It's gloppy, it's weird, and then when we do a stretch and fold, it is going to be kind of like this. But it does bake up nicely and have some bubbles in it. It's really tough to get like big bubbly holes in it with the gluten-free, but this is a good way to do it. Good vibes, positive, yes. I try to be positive with this stuff. That's a really nice comment because it is tough. It's tough to be gluten-free. It's tough to have food restrictions when other people don't, or to try and travel or do, regular things. If you have certain restrictions that, not that I don't want to be gluten-free. If I could eat gluten, I totally would. I just can't be ill all the time from it, Organic food is always better than packaged food. Yes. Yeah. So here she is. Here's my gluten-free thing. That's it. Easy peasy. So that's me unboxing all of my flours. I'll do a little recap of some of my favorite flours for some of you again. So this gluten-free sourdough that I just made, I used these two flours from King Arthur. I am not sponsored by King Arthur. I just really like, these two. This is the 1-to-1 blend. This is the gluten-free bread flour. This is really fabulous. And then Pamela's, this is my favorite pancake mix. Love, love, love this pancake mix. And then I make my dog treats with the cassava flour. Gary. I don't know if you can see him in the background. Gary, come here. There he is. Oh, off. Oh, that was naughty. But this is a root vegetable, cassava. So it's not a grain. Grain can be really hard for dogs. And again, Gary, the dog that was just here, he has Addison's. So we try and feed him really good foods to keep him as healthy as long as possible. Because with Addison's, they do have, it can impact their life expectancy, but we do the best we can. So this is another one though, great gluten-free flour. These are all different brands. I love all these different brands. They're all super helpful, and it does take a knack. So if you're trying out gluten-free or trying to change your cooking to accommodate your gut health and everything else, it can take a bit. Do you need something? No, I'm almost done. So be patient with the gluten-free cooking process. It takes a minute, it takes a bit. You got to get in a good groove with it. I played around with this recipe, I'm not kidding, every day for about a month. Like I tried a new recipe. I was going through bags of flour, trying to get the recipe for the gluten-free sourdough that I really liked. That was easy to make, that I really liked, and that worked really well. So now that I've got it, I get to make really good gluten-free sourdough, and everybody in the family loves it. So it's wonderful. Really good for gut health and everything else. All right, so I still have flour all over. I have to clean up this big mess. So that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in for the behind the scenes, the unboxing of my flours, and making a gluten-free sourdough. I'll be going live again next week about the same time. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And remember, over on my IG, I'm going to be talking about a very limited special offer regarding gut health. So head over there, make sure you are following me to get notified. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for the nice comments, and I will see you guys later.